Hello everybody and welcome to the FourEyedMonster Miniatures YouTube channel, a homage to the collectible hobbyist hoard of treasures, which in my case revolves around the world of anime figures that come pre-painted out of the box, as well as scale model kits that are either assembled as is or given a custom paint job by yours truly. What I have for you here is the former, in the form of the final character of a trio of figures from the TAITO AQUA FLOAT GIRLS Crane Prize figure series that's based on an anime rom-com called Saekano, How to Raise a Boring Girlfriend. Last of the three main girls in Saekano is none other than Eriri Spencer Sawamura, who has the tsundere-like personality in this harem anime. Being the third Aqua Float girl in a row reviewed on my channel, the novelty of this TAITO figure lineup has naturally dissipated, yet the appeal of its beach or pool theme remains valid for budget-constrained collectors starved of some variety in their figures' poses. This pre-painted figure of Saekano's Eriri Spencer Sawamura brings more of the same theme as that of her predecessors Utaha and Megumi, namely a swimwear-clad figure atop a swim ring and wave-like base, posed in a relaxed manner for that pool or beachside vibe. And as you can see, the box art style is fairly similar and consistent with that of her predecessors. Let's now then get to unboxing the third Saekano character in the TAITO Aqua Float Girls series, with the usual option to bypass this ASMR section using the timestamp provided. As per my usual modus operandi or MO, I shall first give this pre-painted figure set a quick close-up look before assembling her for display. We will start by checking out the Eriri figurine herself, which comes fairly fully formed, with all parts already attached. At a glance, this figurine has good resemblance to Eriri, with her signature incisor tooth showing prominently. But what actually stands out most is the sculpting of Eriri's hair, whose blonde locks flare out in a dynamic and natural way. In a way, the styling of her hair serves as a counterpoint to Eriri's petite body and serves to add volume to the general figure. But apart from a serviceable likeness and a hairstyle that evokes a sense of dynamic movement, the rest of the figure is pretty meh, with flat skin tone paintwork, save for the blushes on her cheeks, as well as unpainted nails, an overly plain albeit brightly coloured two-piece swimsuit, plus a pair of oversized green sunglasses. Overall, it's a decent enough addition, especially when viewed within the context of being the figure that completes the Saekano heroine trio. Meanwhile, the base cum display stand with wave-like support structures sprung no surprises and looks identical to the ones that came with Utaha and Megumi. Finally, we have the swim ring, this time in clear white on the upper half with the Blessing software letterings in red, while the bottom half has a molded in color of light mint green, which shows through the clear upper half to make it look like a pastel green. Sculpt work on the swim ring is pretty decent, it's simple yet effective. Like Utaha and Megumi before her, the assembly process for this TAITO Aqua Float Girls crane prize figure of Eriri Spencer Sawamura is more of a stacking process with the parts placed on top of each other without any secure connectivity. Since the process is pretty straightforward, feel free to skip ahead using the timestamp provided. Being the shortest of Saekano's female trio of love interests for the main protagonist, Eriri is portrayed in the harem anime as being 158 cm in height versus 160 cm for Megumi and 169 cm for Utaha. Height differences between the fictional characters isn't as noticeable between the scaled-down pre-painted figures, especially between Eriri and Megumi, with the former measuring just short of 12.5 cm of the latter when measured from the tip of the toe to the back of the head. When viewed with the naked eye, both look the same lengthwise and differ only in body shape, in which Eriri is more flat-chested compared with Megumi, with Utaha being the most voluptuous and also longest figurine at 13.5 cm by the aforementioned measurements. Apart from the skin tone, which in terms of color theory I consider to be a neutral hue, most of the colors you see in this Eriri figurine is analogous in nature, such as the blues of the waves and her eyes, the greens of the swim ring, and the yellows of her blonde hair. These analogous colors offer a relaxing color combination that's intentionally disrupted by the complementary nature of the vivid reds of her bikini. The high contrast nature of reds versus greens works in theory, but I found the red hues to be too visually jarring when viewed against a largely soft pastel palette. Yet to be fair, this color scheme fits perfectly with Eriri's personality, which I would categorize as having a loud nature. Color harmony aside, the actual paintwork application is clean overall, but reasonably flat and bland. I have talked about Eriri's sculpt work in a fair amount of detail during the once-over session, so I'll just quickly recap here. The most standout feature of this TAITO version of Eriri Spencer Sawamura is her dynamic-looking hair, which injects a sense of movement to the figure vignette. It also adds a sense of volume in 3D space to the vignette. But a key weakness of this figurine is that while it has a serviceable resemblance to Eriri the character, it also scores the lowest in terms of likeness factor among all three Saekano characters in the Aqua Float Girls series. Rating this TAITO Aqua Float Girls pre-painted figure of Eriri Spencer Sawamura involves reconciling between dichotomous factors pulling and tearing at its core, namely the overall meh factor of a barely serviceable likeness factor and jarring color contrast versus the beautiful and dynamic hair sculpt. If I had to consider this Eriri swimsuit figure as a standalone figure that wasn't part of the Saekano trio, I would have admittedly passed up on the chance to add her to my collection. What ultimately became the major bugbear for this figure is that for some reason, its anime character likeness factor never quite hit the levels that the Megumi or Utaha figurines had reached. With this premise in mind, Eriri has the unfortunate distinction of being the lowest rated Aqua Float Girls figurine among all three main Saekano female characters. Namely, I'm giving her a rating of Gold or C rank. Eriri as an Aqua Float Girls figurine did not appeal to me at all as a standalone product, in that if she had not been a part of the Saekano trio of characters in the TAITO Crane Prize figure series, I wouldn't have even considered adding her to my collection. Essentially, I got Eriri for the sole reason of completing the Saekano lineup of this pre-painted figure series. All said and done, this swimwear-clad version of Eriri on a swim ring has enough redeeming qualities to justify completing the Saekano female trio. So despite my relatively low rating for the TAITO Aqua Float Girls version of Eriri Spencer Sawamura, the completionist in me couldn't avoid getting this C-rank Crane Prize figure to complete the trifecta of main love interest for Saekano's protagonist, namely Aki Tomoya. If, however, you are a casual fan that doesn't mind having some but not all of the Saekano trio of heroines, I would suggest getting Utaha or even Megumi. Even if you are a casual Saekano fan who is rooting for Eriri to win Tomoya's affections, I would still advise you to stay clear of this particular version of her. Well, with that said, this ends my first look at a complete collection of characters from a series that's predicated on the Aqua Float Girls from TAITO. Thank you for watching, and please do help me out by liking the post and subscribing to my channel. If you would like to know whenever new content is uploaded, then please hit the notification bell. Thank you so much for watching. Be well and be happy. Bye for now and take care.